Hare Krishna. Today we will discuss how to deal with bad habits. So first let us understand what is a bad habit. Everybody has some habits. Some habits are not dangerous or not so bad, but some habits are really bad. Habit of like biting our nails or scratching or doing something or coming late to the office. These are all habits, but though they are not very good, they are not sinful habits. But certain habits are so sinful, they are very sinful rather. So habit of meat eating, gambling, having illicit relationship with other men or women, and intoxication, that is taking liquor. These are termed as the bad habits. So why these are called as bad habits? So let us first understand. Why these are called as sinful habits? Let us understand. Our scriptures prohibit us from taking to these four things, that is meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. These are the things prohibited by our scripture. A person who wants to advance in spiritual life, who wants to please God and who wants to lead a God-centric life must get rid of all these habits. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna says, Tesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam. One who has overcome the tendency of committing sinful habits or sinful activities can worship me with devotion, with concentration and focus. So these bad habits are very dangerous. And today's youth, we see that they don't find anything wrong in doing all these four things. In fact, their agenda every day is how I can increase this activity, because they feel that it gives us some pleasure, gives them some pleasure. So these habits is a vicious circle. Let us understand like this. Everybody is doing everything in this world for his enjoyment. In early days when we are infants, we used to drink milk, and that was giving us pleasure. Then slowly the pleasure in drinking milk is lost because it becomes monotonous. Then people think they should drink tea or coffee because there is some amount of intoxication in that, and then they enjoy tea and coffee. But later on it becomes again very boring for them. Then they take to liquor, and then initially it also gives pleasure, but later on that intoxication in a beer or a wine or a whiskey, whatever it is, beer is not so much, so it again becomes boring. So they increase the amount of intoxicants in those drinks and they start drinking more and more liquor, feeling that it will give them pleasure, but they are getting entangled in that. For example, while watching, let us say watching pictures or movies, in the childhood we watch cartoon movies, that gives us some pleasure, but when one grows up, he feels that cartoons are no longer giving him pleasure. No, he wants real person doing some activities, then real law making scenes, and then slowly they take up to pornography. And in pornography also they dive deep into these hardcore porns and they get caught into this vicious circle. So similarly we can think of gambling also. In gambling also, in childhood we play small cards, simple cards where there is no money or real gambling involved. But it becomes a habit and one wants to derive more and more pleasure in these activities, and then one gets caught up into this vicious circle, into a sinful act. So how to overcome this? How to deal with these bad habits? The solution is very simple, offered by Bhagavad Gita, and Swami Srila Prabhupada ji explains us in a very simple way. First, understand who we really are. We are not this body, we are the soul. And the purpose of the life is to connect ourselves with God. And if one wants to connect ourselves with God, one has to give up the sinful tendencies, as told by Lord Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Tvesham ta antagatam papam. One has to give sinful tendencies. It is difficult to give. We have already committed so much of sin, and therefore the sinful activities are piled up. The sinful reactions are piled up. And then we want to burn this sinful reaction piles, but also stop committing further sinful reactions or further sinful actions. And in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna says that one takes pleasure in all these nonsense activities like meat eating, gambling, intoxication and so on. But if one gets a higher taste, then one can give up these activities. Like for example, if one has nothing to eat but a stale chapati or stale roti, he enjoys that. But when one is given a very fresh, hot puran poli, he will give up that stale roti. So similarly, these sinful activities of gambling, intoxication, illicit sex and meat eating are compelled to a stale roti, a stale chapati, because people have no other option but to do this, so they are doing this. If we give them a higher alternative, a better alternative than this, a very high level of alternative than this, then sinful activities can be easily given up. And what is that higher taste? Lord Sri Krishna says in 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Raso Varjam Raso Apyasya Param Drushtva Nivartate. If one gets an activity which is better than the other activity, then one can give up the previous activity. And what is that better activity? Better activity is leading a God-centric life. In that God-centric life, we eat foodstuff offered to God, which is accept in the form of Mahaprasad, nice, fresh, juicy fruits like mango, grapes, apple, and eating fresh leafy vegetables cooked in a very sattvic way in the mode of goodness, drinking milk which is offered to God. Milk is not so delicious, but when it is offered to the Lord, when it is sanctified, it nourishes not only our external body, but our heart, our mind and our brain, and our thinking changes, as Prabhupada ji explains. So, and ultimately, chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so intoxicating, right, without any effect of intoxication. It is so intoxicating that one constantly, when chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra repeatedly, one gives up all these bad habits. We can see practically that when Prabhupada ji went to USA, the hippies were deeply involved into all these 4 bad habits. But when they started chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly, one after the other, quickly they gave up all these 4 habits. So, what is the solution to giving up these bad habits? The solution is to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly, associate with devotees, read Bhagavad Gita daily and eat Krishna Prasad, as explained by Srila Prabhupada as the ABCD formula for giving up the bad habits. Hare Krishna.